Hello and welcome. My name is Matt Maimone, and I'm here today with Lucy Yee. We're both from Wiser. We're going to walk you through a presentation on how team sports are evolving in isolation, which is a joint study by Wilson Sporting Goods and Wiser. We're both excited to share with you this story to give you a current and tangible look at how younger fans are consuming, rooting for, and aligning themselves to major sport leagues and players in these times. So with that, I'll pass it to Lucy. Lucy, take it away.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, everyone. Before we start, how many of your organizations make every decision based on data? Even with your internal insight function along with the insight from the agencies, many decisions still need to be made without data. We at Wiser strive to help our clients leave no decision uninformed through our insight platform. We worked with Wilson to interview 1,000 people throughout the US in September, under the age of 35, and we found some very interesting insights. A third of them are between age 16 to 24, and the majority of this presentation will be dedicated to the key insights that we learned from them. 2020 was probably one of the most exceptional championships in Lakers history. The Lakers now have 17 NBA titles, tying the Boston Celtics for the most in the league history. Each championship has its own history, its own special meaning, but this year of Kobe Bryant's death, the COVID-19 hold on all of us has many ways in which it can lay claim to being the most special. But let me take you back to early March, when Mark Cuban, the owner of Dallas Mavericks, got a message. Halfway through the game, during the final stretch before the NBA playoff, Mark was informed that the NBA would be suspending the season. Like all of us, he was shocked, speechless. It would be a moment that NBA fans will remember for years. So we did the study. It's not a surprise that the role of sports in the lives of most Americans changes as we grow older. The way we engage, consume, and follow sports evolves. And that is the basis for the insights that were revealed in this study. Different generations had different reactions to the lockdown. And this presentation will focus on what we learned from 16 to 24 years old. These are the top 5 most followed leagues. NFL is leading the pack for the Gen Z. And these leagues actually matter to Gen Z. 85 of them prefer to buy equipment officially licensed by these leagues. An officially licensed product can drive your brand purchase intent strongly. So it probably makes sense to back one or more of these leagues. We also asked the respondents who their favorite athletes are and whom they would want to have lunch with. And it was no surprise that these were the influencers that emerged in our study. What caught our eyes is that a lot of them talked about how these influencers stand up for the social issues and actively play a part in driving social justice. This shows that the youth are extremely passionate about social issues. And not only are they passionate, they also expect the sports brand they buy from to take the right social stance. And that translates to purchase intent and triggers trial. If your brand is suffering from converting awareness to trial, this might be one of the ways to attract this generation. So, should sports take part in these social movements? For Gen Z, the answer is clear and obvious. 82% of Gen Z actually consider sports as an effective channel to drive positive social change. But things are not that simple. As youth, we'll stop buying the sports brands that take a stance on the wrong cause. Now, let me hand over to Matt, and he will talk about what and how Gen Z consumes sports content.
Thank you very much, Lucy. The study revealed that though all were passionate about sports, or nearly all, younger males were much more flexible to move on in the time during the standstill, especially compared to their parents or even their older siblings. And it may have stemmed from a couple of reasons. First off, they were less engaged to begin with live sports. There were more options to them digitally. Also, the majority of their ongoing consumption is typically over social media, which by definition is much more agile as a stream and highlights different topics, interests, and many more areas on a constant basis. Now, when we look at consumption by stream, TV is just one of many channels for this generation. And with so many channels, it allows youth to quickly adjust their streaming method and move on. This is different from boomers or Gen X, which have more reliance on TV. In fact, when we look at Gen Z, many don't even watch the games live. We found that to be very interesting. There are subtle differences in channel preferences between men and women, most probably due to the leagues they watch or how they consume their social media. This finding was also consistent in non-sports related studies we've done. We saw many themes break through in our study, but across the board, it seems that fans feel that the leagues are doing too little or far too much around social issues. Finding the right balance is a big challenge, especially during times of significant social change and stress. For whatever reason, leagues and players are expected to be patriots for our country. And patriotism appears to be demonstrated by social involvement and respect for the American anthem and its flag. We found this to be interesting and have done deeper dives into each of the top leagues. So we asked participants what they thought each of the leagues could do in these times, and we heard some interesting voices on this matter. For the NBA, many feel that the league should make sure that their players are role models, and that includes being COVID responsible and standing up for social causes. And with that, you can even find some pretty overt displays to give freedom to the players to stand up for social justice. For example, the league painting the courts with messages and even allowing players the leeway to speak out in the community. When looking at the MLB and responses that participants had, and noting that this was not a COVID study, but clearly it was very much on people's minds. The open-ended feedback suggests that people feel the league has poor racial representation, their overtures to fans came off a bit creepy in these times, and that they opened up a bit too early to begin playing again. When we were looking into the NFL more deeply, we saw topics emerging around Me Too, and we have to note that this only came up for that league. A lot of feedback also that the NFL didn't take enough stand on social justice or precaution for COVID-19. It's worth noting in recent news that 8 Tennessee Titans tested positive for COVID-19, and it's a good example of disappointing fans who expect more from their teams and for their players to be role models. When we look at open-ended feedback on the NHL, it's worth noting that hockey seems to be one of the only sports perceived as taking almost no social stand, and it appears fans are seeking this type of behavior from them. And finally, NASCAR. The open-ended feedback showed themes that uncovered feelings of a lack of diversity, lack of support for BLM, and on the other hand, a very high level of patriotism. So we learned that leagues, brands, and athletes are all expected to back the right social causes and in the right way, and to demonstrate that they are true patriots while doing so. Indeed, this is a tightrope to walk for anyone. We also know from other studies outside of sports that some brands opted to stop pause, think, pull back from advertising, and do nothing during the lockdown. This actually went against what consumers, viewers, and fans expected from the brands they support to do. They want a clear social voice, and they want immediate action. This is a good place to mention that fans themselves do display solidarity when expected. For example, think back to the universal concern for Dak Prescott, which became national news far beyond the NFL when he was injured. People don't cheer or enjoy in others' pain, and fans expect from themselves what they expect from their leagues and the brands that partake in sponsorship and support, which is togetherness and solidarity, especially in bad times. Now back to the topic of the pandemic lockdown related to sports. Even though the void was quickly recovered by younger fans moving on in their lives, overall fans were very happy that the leagues were back. Just think how uncommon it is for 9 out of 10 people in our divided world these days to agree on anything. I wanted to take a moment to note to you that all of the insights from today's presentation were generated on the Wiser platform. Our market research technology and Wiser's platform allows decision makers to focus on strategic insights while research operations are executed seamlessly. By automating research processes end to end, everything from project setup through data collection and onto analysis, visualization, and reporting outputs, done in a way that allows quicker and more informed decision making for our clients, which are agencies and brands. Lucy and I want to thank you so much for your time today. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions or drop a note in the chat. We would love to hear from you.